Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's election coverage. Today's the day. This is it, and America is gonna get some answers. Will Beto O'Rourke pull off the upset of the year and beat Senator Ted Cruz in the 2018 midterm elections? Will the GOP hold on to the majorities in the House and Senate? Will President Trump's supporters come out in force and pull to the polls once again? Will a blue wave happen? Will Georgia elect Stacey Abrams or Brian Kemp as its next governor, or the two end up in a runoff? The Libertarian candidate keeps either from breaking 50%, or will Florida Governor Andrew Gillum make history? All those answers coming later tonight, and SWRN has full coverage of America's vote throughout the day. And we have with us Glenn Bradford to start things off. Glenn, thank you so much for joining us and starting off our coverage of the day. Great to have you back, as always.
Great to be on with you, Spencer.
All right, and we got a lot of races to go through today. In the Texas Senate race, it may come down to turnout. Of course, that's between Cruz and O'Rourke. Cruz's campaign initially predicted that there will be just over 6 million people that would be casting ballots, and that was before nearly 4.9 million Texans voted earlier in the state's largest 30 counties, and that's been a big theme. I think early voting has been absolutely massive, but other Texas political strategists think that the turnout total may crack 8 million, an extraordinary showing for a midterm campaign, and one that would indicate that O'Rourke has found a new coalition of voters. And I mean, that's going to be, I think, the key to this election. Democrats getting out people who are not, especially in Democrats in tight races, getting out people who don't always vote. And that would be, again, a poll-defying thing that we've seen, like people like Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders in the primaries pull off.
Yes, absolutely. You got a lot of female voters who are energized, and then you have a lot of millennials who I think are very energized, particularly by some of the more charismatic Democrat folks who are running, like Beto O'Rourke, for example. The energy you see on the ground in his campaign is just phenomenal, and it's hard for me to square the fact that he's down 3 or 4 points when you see all that energy. So I'm really hoping the polls are wrong in Texas. Yeah,
especially when you see his opponent as well. And the interesting thing is, this is again among 29. This is among young people. 448% is the percentage in which Texas early voting has increased among 30-year-olds or less, which is I think I don't know 18 to 30, which is pretty incredible. Just under 9 million Texans voted in the 2016 presidential election, and turnouts specialists are thinking 8 million could be cracked. And the energy, obviously, around Beto's candidacy aside, his prospects would matter immensely to Democratic senators. If he somehow wins and the party picks up Senate seats in Nevada and Arizona, they would have an outside chance to claim control of the chamber. But to do so, the Democrats would have to lose one seat, most likely in North Dakota, which is going to be a sad one there for Heidi Heitkamp. But the question is, do you think will the voter suppression operation that the Texas GOP has, they know how to keep control of their own shop? Do you think that'll hold in the end, or?
No. I think the wave is just going to be too much, and I think O'Rourke's going to win. I think that's you were just describing the path that the Democrats have in the Senate to go up one seat in the Senate. They win Arizona and Nevada and Texas, and they lose North Dakota, and they also lose Tennessee. Tennessee, there's a shot that Bredesen could pull out Tennessee, but I'm not as confident in him as I am in Beto O'Rourke.
I get the sense that Bredesen is a little bit even more into it, but I don't know. It's very tough because we don't even. The polls, very oftentimes, they could be wrong. There's 8-point swings and all that stuff. One time an opponent could be winning, one time a candidate could be winning by 8 points and their opponent could be winning by 4 in another poll. You just don't know. And you just kind of have to just break down the numbers there. I mean, the upshot polling has been very fun this midterm election to kind of watch, but it's going to be very, you got people like Kristen Sinema out there as well. And there's many opportunities for the Democrats to win the Senate, but it'd be very, and I think it's really going to be a test of the political philosophy because a lot of these people are very much kind of right wing moderates. Like, will it be embracing the party's left wing or kind of tacking to the right? What would be the more effective strategy? I think we're really testing at tacking to the right this strategy this time around, at least.
Yeah, in some races that's true. Joe Donnelly is a moderate, and Bredesen is a moderate, and so is Sinema, really.
Yeah.
But the interesting other thing about Tennessee, even though I said it probably won't break the Democrats' way, is when you pointed out the other night that the early vote in Tennessee is like 8 times what it was in 2014.
Yeah, 767% up, at least among young people.
Yeah. So, maybe there's something there that just hasn't been picked up on too much in the news, and we'll get surprised. It sounds crazy, but if there's a huge wave, the Democrats could pick up 2 seats in the Senate.
That'd be a tidal wave right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also people like Claire McCaskill holding on as well, which could be very interesting. And just like the people who you generally don't like, but again, when it comes down to the brass tacks here, you want them at least you want them in the Senate rather than you're the average Republican. The Republican officials began election day guardfully hoping about keeping control of the Senate, keeping their one-vote majority going to 50-50 split, with Mike Pence being able to cast the tie-breaking votes, and they were girding for losses in the House. So the strategists are seeing both parties see the Dems on track to win upwards of 35 seats. The GOP now holds a 23-seat majority, and if neither party was predicting outright victory, as at the Texas Senate race, early voting likely trend to appear high, which some Democrats see in their favor, but this was true in some states in 2016 where Trump crushed Hillary Clinton in the Electoral College. President Trump also wrapped up his 3-state campaign swing in Missouri Monday night. He joined on stage by Fox News host Sean Hannity, and saying also that there has been a lot of confusion about that. Jeanine Pirro, Rush Limbaugh, they're also there in a big conservative party at the end of the campaign, and Trump also mocked the journalists in the rally's media pen as fake news, including his own colleagues at Fox. So yeah, that was pretty awkward because what he did there is he look at this pen you journalists have, and then it was a pen that just said fake news on it, which by the way is kind of clever. I mean, I guess, but in an awful way. And his own colleagues were in there at Fox, and it's just embarrassing there for Fox all around. We'll get to that, but the question is, what are you seeing here for the House? What is your outlook here for the House? Do you think that's going to be a much better chance because of the suburban Republican kind of aspect? A lot of people are getting turned off by suburban Republicans.
Yes. Well, first of all, I think there's going to be a number of Republicans, a certain percentage of Republicans that are going to be voting Democrat just for this election. And there's been calls, from important people in the media and in Republican politics, who say that if you're a Republican, you really have to vote for Democrats in this cycle, just as a check on Trump, and then you can go back to being a Republican, that kind of thing. And I'm guessing maybe that, if we're lucky, that might be about 2 or 3% of Republicans will do that. But that turns out to be a 4 or 6% swing, and so that's a big advantage to begin with. And then you've got the Democratic wave on top of that, and you've got independents on top of that, and you've got millennials, and you've got the Puerto Ricans in Florida, and the Hispanic vote that's upset about immigration, and it just seems to be piling and piling and piling on. And I'm hoping that this wave is more like a tsunami. I made a really crazy prediction a few weeks ago. I said that there would be 65 House flips And I'm not hearing anyone in the news say that it's going to be that high, and I'm probably wrong, but it's possible. There's an outside shot that it's possible. I think that the media has really felt bitten by the 2016 election, that they got that wrong, and so they're being very, I think, kind of conservative about what's happening in this election. I think deep down they think that, yeah, there could be a really big wave here, and there could be maybe 60 to 70 House seats flipped, but no one is willing to come out and stick their neck out and say it.
I mean, I did get that sense that there really was going to be a big wave about like like September, late September, early October. Then it kind of all just fizzled out. I don't know if you got that sense, because I mean, maybe with the Kavanaugh thing, the enthusiasm gap began to close, and all kind of that hype that had been there for so long just kind of dissipated. But I don't know. Have you kind of sensed the same thing? Because I just this like kind of evening of the scales a little bit. The Democrats still at the edge, but it was still a little bit of the evening of the scales.
Well, the Kavanaugh thing kind of woke up the Republican base, I think, but I don't think it did anything to dissuade the other side.
No.
If anything, it made it even stronger. I mean, there's two issues to Kavanaugh, right? I mean, and it probably only strengthened the resolve of women in America to vote for Democrats in this election. So no, I think that it's as strong as ever, and I mean, we've seen it in the early voting, and we're going to see more of it today. And I'm really crossing my fingers, because if we're going to impeach this president, there has to be a complete repudiation of him at the polls, and the Republicans who remain in Congress have to be humbled by it. And they have to fear this president, that he's going to just drag them down, and it's only going to get worse in the next election. So, I mean, that's an impetus to get him out, to impeach him. If the Mueller report comes out and it's bad, they will flip. I mean, and it'll be a political decision, right? So, so I'm really hoping that today's results are very damaging politically to the Republicans.
And it definitely makes them the possibility is we see like a mass exodus of people from the Trump administration. But like after 2016, I just get so like antsy about predicting like anything, because I know because these things like they're all on tape, and like you go back and see them, but. Mm-hmm. It's like all the evidence suggests like more towards your side, but especially in places like the Senate, it could be a little bit tighter, in situations where you especially don't want to be tighter, and there's candidates who you maybe don't like, but it's a thing that happens. And it's also very interesting that there's a very big possibility here that the less the media talks up a tsunami could be actually better for the Democratic base, because of things like complacency. You don't want them to get feeling like they are going to win anyway, and they don't really need to come out of the vote. Just think people are so energized, it just doesn't make really a big difference. Which is people like the media just stroking them and saying it's going to be all right and the Democrats are going to win, like that could tamp them down. But so far, I really don't think that's been happening at all. Luckily for the Democrats.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think there was that sense of complacency in the 2016 election, and then look what happened, right? So I think the media is playing it right down the middle. And, last night was a perfect example on MSNBC. They were saying, we don't know what's going to happen. We think this is going to happen. They might pick up the House, words like that, So I think you're right. I think it has helped, and it has kept the energy up. And because you need to scare the Democrats, you need to scare them to the polls too, just like Trump is scaring his base to the polls in a much, more negative way. But, motivation is everything.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Fear in politics is very effective. Like, I mean, when you're fearing the Republicans, it's almost somewhat better.